Hey everyone, before we start the show, I just want to get some plugs out of the way. If you enjoy this podcast and you're into wrestling, check out the Nerds and Marks podcast or Marty and Sarah Love Wrestling. If you're not getting your fill on movie and entertainment discussion, then check out the Entertainment Buffet podcast. If you want to dive into the world of video games, I highly recommend the Darkcast by my friends over at darkstation.com. Listen to them cover important topics and interview men and women from all over the industry. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of Shelved. I am your host, Jeremy Meyer. Now, this is a script that I have been eager to talk about since I started the podcast. I wasn't sure if I was going to get through a lot of the ones I wanted to hit in the first year, but this is one that just has to be done. And unfortunately, I wanted this episode posted on Friday, but being struck with sickness kind of got in the way of that. But today we're going to talk about Justice League Mortal, just in time for the actual Justice League movie hitting theaters just this past weekend, which at the time of this recording, I have not seen Justice League. I am not excited to see Justice League, but I am going to watch it. I do feel like it is important to see it for myself, and I've heard some mixed opinions from some people. Like, generally the opinion seems to be that it's a bad movie, it's a mess of a story, it's got some terrible CGI, but the characters are good and it's fun. And as much as I've hated like this DCEU, like Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, and Man of Steel, there are things that I like about it. Like, I like all the actors for the most part that they've got to play the heroes, so I do want to see them in a movie where Joss Whedon got to go in and give them a little more personality. So I am looking forward to seeing it a little bit, but I'm kind of very low expectations. But what you may have not known is back in 2008, Warner Brothers was about to go in production on another Justice League movie, which has been called Justice League Mortal. And this movie was going to be directed by George Miller, who you might know as the director of Happy Feet 2, Babe, Pig in the City, but more importantly, all of the Mad Max movies, including Mad Max Fury Road, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Why did I say that weird? But yeah, he was almost going to direct a Justice League movie, and they were basically like about to start filming when it got shut down. The movie had been cast. They had announced it. They'd even shown some of these, like showing up at cons and stuff with the whole cast. Recently, they've put out some concept art and some photos, like the Wonder Woman costume test photo. They put that out like around the time the Wonder Woman movie came out, and you know, you can find this stuff online. I'm posting it on our Instagram, Shelved Film Podcast, or Instagram is Shelves Podcast. That's the email. So if you look at Instagram, Shelved Podcast, you can see I posted the picture of Megan Gale as Wonder Woman, who she was going to be the Wonder Woman of this movie. In a second, I'll run down the cast here, but just think about this. This movie was going to go into production in 2008, and that was the year The Dark Knight came out. So we would have had competing Batmen on screen at the same time, and that's kind of a crazy thing to think. We were post Superman Returns, no Man of Steel yet. We would have the two Christian Bale Batman movies, and that was kind of the state of DC films at the time. Green Lantern was still a couple years out, which we all know how that went. But the cast as listed here, and you can find there's a big like Comic-Con cast photo of everybody. We would have had Armie Hammer as Batman. Now, Armie Hammer from The Social Network and what was that, Lone Ranger. We would have had DJ Catrona as Superman, who I looked him up. I think he's been in a couple things. I don't really recognize this actor. As I said, Megan Gale as Wonder Woman, who, again, I don't think she's somebody who's done a lot. Why don't I look up some of these people and see what we can see about them? Megan Gale. Okay. Okay, she was in Mad Max Fury Road as one of the women in there, which, she must have been one of the minor ones because I don't recognize her. Oh, and she was in the movie Stealth in 2005. So, not much of a career. I only see 4 movies here. I got Stealth, I Love You 2, The Water Diviner, and Mad Max Fury Road. So, not a whole lot going on for Megan Gale. This could have been her big movie. Okay, so moving on, we have Adam Brody as the Flash, which Kevin Smith actually did a movie, or not a movie, a interview with Adam Brody, and they talked a little bit about this movie, and he talked a little bit about his scenes, which we'll get into here in a little bit. Adam Brody, you might know from, if you like skateboarding, he did a movie called Grind. He was in Cop Out, Scream 4, Jennifer's Body, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I remember him in that. Thank You for Smoking, which I did not see, but he's been in a few things. This is actually an actor I recognize. All right, who's next on the cast list? Hugh. I'm gonna butcher this name. Hugh Kiaz-Brine as Martian Manhunter, or John Jones. A character I don't really know much about, Martian Manhunter. I know enough about him, but let's look up this actor and see what he's in that I might know of. Okay, he's an older guy. Oh, he was Immortan Joe in Mad Max Fury Road. Okay, so he was the main villain in Mad Max Fury Road, and he was in the original Mad Max as well. I do remember looking some of these up earlier, and I do remember seeing that. Cast. Oh, yeah, so we had Common was going to be John Stewart Green Lantern, the rapper Common from Chicago. That was actually a great choice. I love that idea, and I would totally be down with that. A couple other characters that were cast. Zoe Kazan as Iris Allen, so Barry Allen's wife. I'm looking her up. I don't really recognize any of these movies. Okay, the most recent thing she did was The Big Sick. So, and she was in The Monster. Okay, I saw The Monster. She was the mom in The Monster, which is like a little indie movie, which is, I don't know, it's okay. It's I wouldn't recommend it, but I kind of enjoyed my time with it. She also did some movie called Revolutionary Road, which I heard of, which was a Kate Winslet, Leonardo DiCaprio movie. So, and then the last one we have was Teresa Palmer as Talia al Ghul. And Teresa Palmer, let's see, she was in The Sorcerer's Apprentice, I Am Number 4, Warm Bodies, a couple other things here, but those seem to be her biggest. Apparently she was in the remake of Point Break, so let's just try to ignore that one. Okay, she was in Hacksaw Ridge. So, yeah, some of these people have gone on to do some things, and some of them haven't. Mostly Megan Gale as Wonder Woman. She seems to be the one that has kind of not a lot going on here. Okay, this movie was written by Kieran and Michele Mulroney, who these are two writers I've never heard of. Looks like they have a lot of TV writing credits. Some film writing credits of movies that I've never heard of. Looks like they have some story credits on the most recent Power Rangers movie and Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. That was the sequel to the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies. Okay, so their writing credits are not super great. Their last one, I don't even know if I want to mention, is Geostorm. So, not some great writing credits here, which is very surprising because now we're going to get into the script. And what I'm going to say might kind of contradict what I was just reading because I actually really liked the script. Now, there is a Batman.wikia page for Justice League Mortal, and instead of referring to my notes as I normally do, I am going to read from this because it does give a better description than my notes do. And I will kind of chime in on some things that I wrote down as I go. So, as I said, I really enjoyed this script. From the sounds of things, I think this might have been a better movie. The first thing I will point out is this movie is not establishing any of the heroes. It is establishing the team. The movie assumes that you already know everybody. Like, obviously, everybody knows who Batman is. Everybody knows who Superman is. At this point, it's probably safe to assume everyone who's going to see this movie knows who the Flash is already. You know, he's got a very popular TV show. Most of these characters we would know from the cartoons, like Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter. Aquaman, I feel like everybody pretty much knows Aquaman, which I just noticed. Aquaman was not listed on that cast list. Did I miss him? Where's the cast again? Here we go. Okay, yeah. I don't see Aquaman on here. Oh, here we go. Santiago Cabrera. I don't know who this is, so why don't we trying to select this guy's name to Google him. Santiago Cabrera. He was going to play Aquaman. So, copy, paste. Okay, he was in The Musketeers, which was a BBC series. Looks like he was also in Heroes, which I did not watch that show. Heroes Unmasked. He was in some show called Merlin. Did some Covert Affairs episodes. He did some Dexter. Looks like only like one episode. He was in, most recently, I guess, the Transformers The Last Night, which I didn't see. I'm not sure anybody saw. Yeah, so he's another kind of like under the radar guy. Looks like he's done a lot of TV, but nothing real big. So forgot about him. There's also a couple other cast members here I forgot to mention. The villain of the movie, which you already heard me mention, Talia al Ghul. So that was one to point out. The other villain is Maxwell Lord, who is a DC Comics villain that I've only encountered one time. He seems to, as far as I can tell, is like kind of a rich guy with some mind control powers and some psychic powers. And I read the what was the storyline? Justice League versus Suicide Squad, which was a great crossover that I highly recommend. And he was like one of the main villains of that crossover. And that seemed to be his power, was kind of like some mind control stuff. So that checks out. And he was going to be played by Jay Baruchel. That's the guy that's friends with Seth Rogen and was in Tropic Thunder, the skinny guy. And honestly, like reading that, it sounds like kind of crazy, but I can actually picture him like reading the script, saying these lines, and it sounds like crazy casting, but I feel like it's one of those crazy stunt casting things that totally would have worked. Like, he's more known as a comedic actor, but I feel like he could have pulled this off. And the only other cast member that I forgot was Wally West is in the movie, and he would have been played by Anton Yelchin, which is really interesting. And, you know, rest in peace, Anton Yelchin. Really, really unfortunate what happened to him. So, all right, we're going to jump into it. We're going to, as I said before, this movie doesn't take the time. Like, we don't get an origin story for any of these characters. It's just like, hey, look, here's the movie. Here are the characters. We assume you know who the fucking Justice League is, so here you go. Now the movie, I'm gonna read each little section of this Wikia story description, and then I'll jump in on it with my thoughts. So that's how we're gonna roll with this one. So if you wanna read that, you can. It's out there. It's easy to find. Okay, so the script opens on a funeral in Metropolis for a fallen hero. Thousands of people are in attendance. All of the League are present except for Batman. The heroes are wearing all black versions of their normal costumes. As the fallen hero's coffin is placed in the grave, the story flashes back to 2 days ago. Yeah, so the movie, it opens immediately with, it kind of reminds me of the scene in Zack Snyder's Watchmen where it's the funeral for the comedian. You know, it's all dark and somber and everything. It's kind of funny to picture all of the heroes there with like black versions of their costumes for a funeral. Like, the opening shot is actually Superman floating in space, and then he kind of zooms to Metropolis where the funeral is happening. And during this whole time, we're getting a voiceover from Wonder Woman, and the voiceover, everything about it is really hinting to the fact that Batman is the one that died, and that it's the funeral for Batman. But right away I assume it's a like a bait and switch, but I guess we'll find out. So yeah, it's setting a mood for the opening. So we jump back to 2 days ago, and we jump back to Batman in the Batcave, and he is sitting there using a satellite known as the Brother Eye to spy on other heroes. Alfred enters the cave and informs him that Bruce Wayne has a birthday party to attend. Batman shuts down the Brother Eye and exits the cave. After he leaves, Brother Eye reactivates itself. Yeah, so ironically enough, I've been playing Injustice 2. I just got it, and that was my introduction to Brother Eye. I don't know if Brother Eye has actually appeared in the comics, but doing a quick Google, I do believe it has. But yeah, Brother Eye is basically this like spy satellite that Batman has in the script. And he's using it to spy on the other heroes. So this is our way of, it's almost, the script kind of reads like a Suicide Squad style introduction of all the characters. Like the way it's described in the script is he's scanning. It's like it scans Barry Allen, aka the Flash, and then the computer screen lists his powers and weaknesses, and then it literally does that for every character. It just scrolls through, and that's kind of like our introduction to all the characters. So when we see each character, we kind of get a little scene with them to kind of set up what's going on. So now we jump to the next little paragraph here. And it says, Denver, Colorado, Detective John Jones, a.k.a. the Martian Manhunter, is investigating a crime scene where he discovers a jar containing what looks like a seahorse. When he removes the seahorse from the jar, the creature sprays him with an unknown substance that causes him to burst into flames. In a panic, John Jones takes off, accidentally setting everything he comes in contact with on fire. Yeah, so if you know anything about Martian Manhunter, his weakness is fire. And that's kind of the theme here for like all the introductions to the superheroes is weaknesses. So we see the scene with Batman and the spy satellite. He's obviously weary of these characters, and it reminds me, there's an old JLA story by Grant Morrison, one of the more interesting stories for the Justice League that I've read is called Tower of Babel, and it's basically Batman over the years has created all of these plans against each member of the Justice League. Like, let's say one of them went crazy and he would have to fight them, then this is what he would do. And Ra's al Ghul, as we all know at this point, steals those plans and uses them against the Justice League to defeat them. And this script is kind of similar to that in the beginning. Like, the story is kind of the same. Like, somebody has access to Brother Eye, and they're using Batman's information against all of the heroes, and then, in a way, almost blaming it on him. So yeah, that's our Martian Manhunter scene. Next, we have Barry Allen is having lunch with his wife Iris at a superhero-themed restaurant known as Planet Krypton. He sees a news story on one of the televisions over the bar in the restaurant about a huge inferno raging through Denver. Barry puts on his Flash costume and races off to Denver to help. This is actually a fun little scene. I really like this introduction to Barry. It implies that he's just kind of like, Barry is kind of our heart of the script. Not a lot of characters get like personal stories. Barry's kind of the only one. He's the only character we get an introduction to someone else in his life. Aside from Batman, we get Alfred. But Barry, we meet his wife, we meet Wally, and he's kind of the emotional heart of the movie, and it's very obvious from the beginning. So I did screenshot a little dialogue section here of Barry at the restaurant, and it just goes to show like how the world would react to superheroes. And honestly, you see a little bit of this in the DCEU now. Like in some of the movies, like I know in Suicide Squad and Justice League, they show people merchandising the superheroes, like they're selling Superman shirts and stuff like that. And this movie takes it a little further with the Krypton restaurants. But here's him ordering his food. And obviously all the waiters and waitresses are superheroes in costumes, and of course they get a Flash guy. So he's like, "Hi there, Flash. I will have, let's see, 2 crypto burger platters, both Superman size, and a large Wonder Slaw. Please, let's go ahead and add an Aquaman, just a sandwich, but with extra tartar sauce and coffee. To me, it's just it was like a fun little scene. Like they're just going all out with how ridiculous this is, and he loves it. Like Iris is kind of rolling her eyes at the idea of being there, but he's like, oh man, this is great. I love coming here. So yeah, it's kind of a fun little scene. And while they're there, they're also seeing Wonder Woman on TV, and that's kind of our introduction to Wonder Woman. She's kind of just giving a speech at the UN. It's kind of some boring stuff. But Wonder Woman or Barry and Iris are watching it, and he's like fascinated with her. And there's a little dialogue scenes where Iris is like, "What is it with you and her?" And Barry's like, "Wonder Woman? Just look at her. She's the only aptly named superhero. You know what I mean?" And it says off of her look. He's like, "What?" So they do kind of play around with the relationship between Flash and Iris. There's even a great recurring line of dialogue where every time he rushes off to save stuff, or save people, I guess. He's not saving stuff. She always has a line of dialogue like, "Oh, are you going to save the whole world?" And he's like, "No, just the part that you're in," or whatever. And that's something that will come back later, and I think is a really good moment of the movie, but we will get there. So the Flash runs off to Denver, and when he's there, he's greeted by Wonder Woman, who together they're able to subdue the Martian Manhunter by tying him up with Wonder Woman's lasso and blasting him with a constant stream of water. This is kind of one of our only early action scenes in the movie. I will say, as with like a lot of first superhero movies, and technically, like while I said this isn't an origin story, it's an origin for the Justice League. So you don't get a lot of action in the first movies. So a lot of the action is definitely towards the end of the movie, which we will definitely talk about when we get there. But this is definitely a early action scene that it's satisfying enough. You know, you get some powers, but it's basically, you know, she's flying and he encourages her to lasso the Martian Manhunter, and then he adjusts like a broken water tower or something with his speed force to spray the Martian Manhunter and put him out. So I did kind of skip over when Batman and Alfred are talking. They're in the cave, and I do want to run through this little dialogue here because I actually really like some of the dialogue in this movie, and this is a good moment of kind of showing the stance of Batman in this. And there's a lot of emphasis on how he is just a human man while all these other people have superpowers. So I'm just going to run through this dialogue. Bear with me as I kind of do my little performance. But it's Alfred. "Oh, quiet, Master Bruce." And then Batman. "Too quiet." Yeah, should I do the Batman voice? I don't know. Alfred. "Well, world peace has a way of doing that. Maybe it's time we started thinking of things as promising, dare we say." And Batman. "Peace isn't a promise, Alfred. It's an intermission, a threat." And then Alfred. "Point noted. Still, crime is down to a mere nuisance. The city is generally quiet, and the sun does shine, sir." Batman. "So I've heard." Alfred. "All your time down here in the dark, monitoring them, some might say you've become somewhat." And then Batman. "Paranoid? What if, Alfred? What if something happens? They're not human, none of them. Not fully. And with their powers, if not me, who's going to watch them? What if? You see what I'm saying?" And he says, "I believe you are saying, what if, sir?" And it just says, Bruce smiles, and he says, "The sun's shining, huh?" Sorry, that was a really bad performance. But yeah, it's like a great little back and forth between him and Alfred, and I really like that scene. And it goes to show where the world is at this point, because to us it is a new world. This isn't like a universe movie. This would have been the first one, and assuming a series. Yeah, you know, they say world peace. Like, there are no other villains. It's not like the Joker pops up in this movie. There's really only Maxwell, Lord, and Talia al Ghul, and they are working together from the beginning, which we'll get there. But yeah, so it just goes to show kind of what the stance of the world and Batman's perspective on these heroes, which throughout the script, you always get the idea that all the heroes know each other, know of each other at least, but this is them like meeting for the first time, except for it's implied that Superman and Wonder Woman have met before. So we're back at Wayne Manor. Bruce is greeted by his friend and owner of Planet Krypton Restaurants, Maxwell Lord. So here's our introduction to the villain at Bruce Wayne's birthday party, and it's implied that these guys know each other, and then he owns all the Planet Krypton restaurants, which will come up later. So Talia al Ghul also mysteriously appears at the party. Maxwell tells Bruce the story about how Talia helped Batman defeat her own father, Ra's al Ghul, and how afterwards Batman abandoned her and left her alone. Alfred interrupts and informs Bruce of the situation in Denver. This is kind of a weird scene. It's very expositional, but it's kind of given in the sense that, like, oh, everybody must know this story. Like, it must just be one of Batman's adventures that is known to the public because Maxwell Lord is just telling it, and Bruce isn't kind of shaking it off as, oh, this is just like it's weird that he knows all this, but instead he is remembering the events as they actually happened. Like, Lord is telling the story, and we're seeing the flashback of Batman and Talia and the last night they saw each other where, you know, they shared a kiss and it was clearly a romantic situation, and then he left never to see her again. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of a weird scene. It's very expositional, which is obviously something I hate very much in movies, exposition scenes, but it's not terrible. Like, it definitely could have been a scene that was rewritten. Word is this script went through a lot of rewrites, and that was part of the problem because the writer's strike happened in 2008, and that was one of the factors that led to this movie getting canceled. Is the studio was demanding a lot of rewrites, but hey, there were no writers to do it because they were on strike. So now we flash to New York, which is Wonder Woman's, base of operations, and her and the Flash have the Manhunter submerged in an ornate bathing pool and Wonder Woman's conservatory to keep him from bursting into flames. Superman arrives and meets the Flash for the first time. The Manhunter tells Superman about the seahorse and says whoever set this up knew the Manhunter's weakness, fire. So this is a scene. It's Flash and Wonder Woman kind of working together to figure out what's wrong with the Martian Manhunter. And actually, another line of dialogue I screen capped from the Flash is, okay, best guess, magnesium. It doesn't mix well with oxygen, very explosive combination. Could be a compound bonded with his skin cells, a serum, but if you ask me, I'd say it was microtechnology, nanotech. I'd have to get a sample to my lab. So nanotech comes into play pretty heavily in the script later on. That's why I wanted to read that. But yeah, so this is our introduction to Superman. He flies down to meet them, and it's him and Wonder Woman kind of share a line of dialogue that imply like they know each other. It might even be a little romantic. There is no Lois Lane in the script. I don't recall there ever even being a mention of her. As far as I can tell, she's just kind of a non-issue in this movie. So after that, Martian Manhunter is basically under this water, and if he comes out at all, he just bursts into flames. Like, there's nothing they can do about it, and they can't figure out what's going on. So the Flash returns home to do some research. Once home, his wife informs him that his nephew, Wally, has come to visit. Wally, like Barry, also possesses super speed. Barry asks Wally to help him with his research. Yeah, so like I said, the Flash is kind of the only character that gets like some emotional story moments. He asks Wally, who it's implied that he's very good with computers, if he can kind of poke around and find anything about nanotechnology. While this is happening, these two are playing ping pong at super speed and like throwing in multiple ping pong balls, and it's kind of just meant to be a demonstration of the Speed Force and their abilities. While that's going on, Superman and Wonder Woman are kind of talking about what to do about Martian Manhunter, and they mention that the little seahorse creature. So obviously this is going to lead us to Aquaman, which it is implied that Aquaman knows Wonder Woman and Superman. Aquaman in this movie has an affinity for Wonder Woman, as it seems most of the characters do. Flash, Superman, and Aquaman all kind of seem to have a gaze in Wonder Woman's direction, if you know what I mean. So Superman travels deep under the sea to speak to King Arthur, a.k.a. Aquaman, about the mysterious seahorse John mentioned. Arthur goes on a tirade about how he's come to the aid of mankind several times, and yet they continue to harm and pollute the environment. He shows Superman his prosthetic water hand and says, I have given my pound of flesh. Arthur eventually agrees to come to the surface and help the Manhunter for her, meaning Wonder Woman. So the pound of flesh thing. I like the pound of flesh thing, but they literally say he has a hand that's made out of water. And I think that is really dumb. That is one thing that would drastically need to be changed with this script. Because you just picture a hand like floating there that he just manipulates the water into a hand, and it makes no sense. Give him a fake harpoon hand. It's fucking dumb. Like, that's Aquaman's actually like a pretty decent character in this, and it's the water hand thing really holds it back. Also, I don't know how, like, the whole thing with Superman going down to Atlantis, it's never described of him having a helmet or anything, or described like how he can breathe underwater. Like, obviously he could fly down there and get down there no problem, but the whole breathing and talking thing isn't really addressed. They don't just talk much about Atlantis or say, like, can he breathe inside Atlantis? Is it bubbled? Like, they don't talk about that, so it's a little confusing. So it is revealed that the people behind the attack and the ones who took control of Brother Eye are Maxwell Lord and Talia al Ghul, which, like, obviously, Maxwell Lord is very much villain material when he shows up, and everybody knows Talia al Ghul is the son of Ra's al Ghul and that whole relationship there. But the idea is they're working together. Talia's hurt because Batman abandoned her, and Maxwell Lord has some shit going on. It's implied that Maxwell... God, I hate that name. It's implied that Maxwell Lord, something happened to him when he was younger that is the thing that is sending him off on this quest against the Justice League. But that is something we will get into a little later. So we jump back to Gotham City, and we see Batman saves 2 Gotham City police officers from being tortured by a biker gang. One of the gang members flees into a movie theater. Batman follows the biker inside, but before he can apprehend him, the biker transforms into a huge armored super soldier known as an Omax. The Omax easily defeats Batman. Before the Omax can kill Batman, Maxwell Lord, who is watching the fight via the Brother Eye, orders the Omax to stand down. And even more specifically, he has the Omax pull off his mask, showing that the most valuable thing that Batman has is his secret identity, and it could be taken away from him just like that. So this is kind of, I'm just going to explain this now because to me it was very confusing the way it was written in the script. But the Omax, which are something from the comics and they are tied to Brother Eye, but the Omax seem to be nanite created robots, shells that form around a human being. Like, they get infected with some sort of nanotechnology, and it creates a robotic shell around them, so they basically become robot slaves to Brother Eye. It's confusing the way they explain it in the script, but that's kind of how I figured it out or kind of pieced it together. So Batman returns to the cave and tries to access Brother Eye, but the satellite tells him that he is no longer in control of it. So now he knows that something is up, and then he calls for Alfred to, like, bring in a bunch of old computers so they start, like, hooking them up. So we cut to New York, and this is our first introduction to Green Lantern, who to me is one of the characters that gets short shrift in the script. There's not a lot to do for Green Lantern. It's kind of like him and Martian Manhunter. They don't really do much. New York architect John Stewart, a.k.a. Green Lantern, is working in his office. He bites down on a pencil while studying a green energy construct of his next project. Something comes off the pencil and goes into his mouth. A moment later, Stewart is blind. He loses control of his Green Lantern ring, and his energy constructs begin destroying the office. Yeah, so Green Lantern, he's an architect, and he's creates his projects with using the Green Lantern ring, so he can actually see them in real time as he develops them and studies them and stuff, which is a cool idea. I don't actually know a lot about John Stewart Green Lantern. I watched the Justice League cartoon that he was in, and that was my introduction to John Stewart Green Lantern. But I've never read a Green Lantern comic, and I've never read one that featured John Stewart. I know a lot of people like his character. I liked him a lot in the cartoon. I definitely like the idea that that was the Green Lantern that they were going to use for the movie. But I don't know much about him. I don't know if he was an architect or anything like that. So I don't have a lot to say here. He's a character I do need to learn more about. Meanwhile, back at Wonder Woman's conservatory, Aquaman is stung by a robot mosquito, which gives him aquaphobia. He tears off his water hand and throws it aside. However, the Manhunter is able to use the water hand as a suit of water armor, which will prevent him from bursting into flames. Superman and Flash go to Green Lantern's aid and bring him back to join the others. Yeah, this is kind of a weird moment. And it's just a way to get all of the characters together. As you can see, that most of the team is starting to come together. So while they're in New York, they see like the green energy flying off in the distance, and they know of Green Lantern. So they're like, oh shit, like something must be up. So they go to see him and find him blind. So they decide to bring him back with them. The water hand thing is still stupid. Martian Manhunter basically manipulates the water to cover his entire body so he can kind of walk around and not be bursting into flames. Okay, so this leads us to our next moment, which is the heroes traveling to the Fortress of Solitude. Basically their whole idea is somebody is clearly watching them and coming after them. They need to go somewhere where nobody will find them. So they're like, well, Superman obviously has a place for them. So the heroes travel to the Fortress of Solitude, where they're eventually joined by Batman, who is now forced to wear high-tech braces due to the injuries he sustained during his battle with the Omax. Batman, concealing his injuries under his cape, tells the heroes about the Brother Eye and how he used it to learn about their powers and weaknesses. He explains that he wanted to know their weaknesses so he could defeat them in case they ever turned against humanity. Batman then tells them that someone, he doesn't know who yet, has taken over Brother Eye and is using the data it collected to attack them. Wonder Woman punches Batman, dropping him down to one knee. When he stands up, the other heroes notice the braces he's wearing and inquire what happened to him. He tells them about his fight with the Omax. Yeah, so I actually really like the Fortress of Solitude scene. They describe the fortress, as this giant ice palace, but inside the ice palace or not like palace, but basically just picture like Christopher Reeves, But inside there is a wooden cabin, which is, or a wooden farmhouse, which is like a replica of his farmhouse from Kansas, which is an interesting idea. I like that idea. It gives the fortress a little more than just being like an ice place, and it gives them a place to hang out believably where they're not all going to freeze to death. And I like the scene of Batman showing up. Like it kind of goes through the paces of what we saw with the discussion with Alfred, which was like, what if, I had to be ready, and he even says like, I'm not sorry that I did it. Like I need to be prepared for this. And obviously they're kind of pissed off at him, but Superman is the one that, he kind of understands, and he still wants Batman's help versus some of the others are pretty pissed off at him. But it is the moment of vulnerability that you see, like when they actually describe it even better in the script of not only do they see like the braces on his legs and knees, but the braces on his body. And Batman goes back to the Batcave, and he leaves them because he feels like it's his fault, and he's the one who should fix it. So he's like, I'm going back, and I'm gonna figure this out. Like, don't you worry. But they want him to join him, and he kind of refuses. Sorry, a little water break. Okay, so the Flash receives a cell phone call from who he believes is his wife. When he answers the phone, a nanobot comes out of it and goes into his body, where it attaches itself to his spine. The Flash's body starts vibrating uncontrollably. His body vibrates so fast that he phases completely through the center of the Earth. He rockets out of the ground on the other side of the planet and flies into air before plummeting back into the Earth, shooting back to his original position. Wonder Woman ensnares him with her lasso, which is able to temporarily prevent him from phasing through the Earth. Yeah, this was kind of a weird scene. I wasn't a big fan of it. Like, I understand the whole vibrating through things as the Flash, moving your molecules so fast that you can phase through anything. Like, I get it. But it's just a little much that he goes all the way through the Earth and comes back. So basically all of the main heroes, except for Superman and Batman, and Wonder Woman have some nanite thing happening to them that is preventing them from using their powers correctly. So we got Green Lantern is blind, John Jones is on fire, Aquaman is stricken with fear, especially of water, and the Flash is now unable to control his powers. Batman leaves the group in order to search for the one behind the attacks. He discovers there's a file on him in Brother Eye's database, which when he inquiries what his weakness is, Brother Eye responds, love. Batman remembers his last night with Talia. He realizes that when she kissed him, she put a nanoscopic homing device in his mouth, which he swallowed. So basically, Talia led Maxwell Lord to learn who is Batman and discover Brother Eye, which he was then able to hack into. But then we cut back to the Fortress. Manhunter, using his telepathy, guides Green Lantern through a surgical procedure to remove the nanobots from the Flash's spine. This successfully stops him from vibrating. Next, they do the same for Aquaman, which cures his aquaphobia. Manhunter gives himself a laser... what is this word? Dermabrasion, using the Martian heat vision and an energy mirror created by Green Lantern. This cures him of his spontaneous combustion. Aquaman reclaims his water hand, which he then uses to cure Green Lantern and restore his sight. This scene is described way more intense in the script, because basically they realize there's nanites. So the nanite attached to Flash's spine. Obviously, it's a almost microscopic thing inside his body, and they're like, how do we get it out? Superman, use your heat vision, but it might kill him. It's not precise enough. But Green Lantern, he can construct things. He can construct things at any size and wherever he needs them. So the idea is Green Lantern creates microscopic fibers that John Jones is going to direct him with telepathically to cut out the nanites. And it's described in a much more tense way, and it's actually kind of a cool use of the Green Lantern power. So now they're all healed. Like, everybody, they're doing good. But Flash is like dying because they really do emphasize that Flash needs to eat a lot, which is something from the comics that I don't watch the Flash TV show currently, so I don't know if that's ever been brought up in the show. But because of his powers, he has a very high metabolism, and since his powers are going out of control, his body was burning up all the energy, and he's basically like starving. He's like very thin, basically like someone who's been starving for weeks. So Wonder Woman takes Flash to a Planet Krypton restaurant in order to consume enough calories to get his strength back. While at the restaurant, they are joined by Wally West. While helping Barry with his research, Wally discovers something called the Omax, One Man Army Corps Project. The program started off dealing with nanotechnology and robotics, but then shifted its focus to mind control. Several children were experimented on in order to see if humans could be turned into psychic warriors, soldiers with the ability to control the enemy with just the power of their minds. All of the children in the program died except one, Jonah Wilkes. Wally runs a picture of Wilkes through a forensic aging program to see what he would look like today. The result, Maxwell Lord. Yeah, so Maxwell Lord has his psychic powers through this experiment, and he was the only survivor. And basically, his whole angle is, where were the heroes? Why weren't they there to save us when this horrible thing was happening to us? And that's his problem. And that's why he wants to take down these heroes. And he's basically just using Batman as a way to get to the others because he knows of Brother Eye. So Batman finds Talia and follows her back to Maxwell Lord's hideout. After confronting Talia, Batman realizes she can't be the one behind the attacks. It's at this point that Maxwell reveals himself to be the one in control of Brother Eye. Max is joined by 3 of the bikers from Gotham. He orders Brother Eye to initiate Phase 1. Suddenly, people all over the world begin transforming into Omax. The bikers also transform into Omax and attack Batman. At the Fortress of Solitude, the Martian Manhunter senses Batman's in danger, and with Aquaman and Green Lantern, rushes to help him. So all of this stuff is pretty straightforward. It's your classic, you get to the end, you confront the bad guy, but then things get worse. So he has been doing something that is allowing him to spread these nanites all over the world and into people and basically turning them into his army. So all these people all over are turning into robots, and these are basically going to be the foot soldiers for our Justice League to fight. So Wonder Woman and Superman arrive at Maxwell's hideout before the other heroes and defeat the Omax, saving Batman. Yeah, so this scene, like, Batman just gets fucked up by these three robots. Like, this whole movie is just Batman being torn down. Like, he's basically near death multiple times, so Maxwell Lord wants to wait. So everyone, like, there's witnesses basically to his defeat. So when Superman and Wonder Woman show up is when things kind of go bad, but get very awesome in the script. So Maxwell uses his psychic abilities to take control of Superman's mind. He forces the Man of Steel to attack Wonder Woman. Batman attempts to help Wonder Woman by electrocuting Superman with 2 high-voltage electrical cables. Superman is stunned for a moment, but quickly recovers and backhands Batman through the ceiling. The battle between Superman and Wonder Woman extends all the way into outer space. At one point, Wonder Woman throws Superman into the moon. He recovers using her own lasso, flings Wonder Woman back to Earth, where she crashes into the Hudson River. So this scene is awesome. Sorry, I had to get a water drink here. And this is where I'm going to refer to my notes, because I took a lot more notes on this battle scene than what this description is giving. And this scene was legitimately awesome. Like, this battle scene between Superman and Wonder Woman that they describe is way better than any moment in Batman v Superman where they were actually fighting each other. And I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably better than any moment in the actual Justice League movie. But I guess I'll find that out when I get there. Okay, so where do I have this? Okay, so Wonder Woman, blah, 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 Maxwell. Okay, so basically they begin by just trashing the building they're in. Like, they're punching each other into, like, bottom levels and top level, like, floors above. And it's described as Superman and Wonder Woman just beating the shit out of each other. Wonder Woman, one thing she does is after Batman electrocutes him, she clangs her bracelets on either side of his head, which I really liked. It was a use of the bracelets I've never seen before. And they actually describe it as like blowing out like a circle of damage of the building from the shockwave, which was really awesome. So he chucks a car at her and it sends her down towards the street. And she like has to hold the car as it's falling. And she rips out the engine block and then comes up and starts beating Superman with the engine. This basically leads to their fight in space where she like whirls him into the moon and then deflects laser eyes at close range into his face with her bracelets, which is fucking awesome. She basically, like, as they're flying towards each other, she kind of like flies above him and lets the lasso drop and loop around his neck, and then is fucking yanking him around until he's able to grab it and then basically like swing the lasso and her down back into the ocean. It's a really great fucking action scene. And now this leads to Aquaman joining the fight. So she's in the water and he comes and summons a bunch of sea creatures, and Superman beats up some sea creatures, and then he ends up knocking Aquaman into the city. And as he's like falling, he's saved by Green Lantern. So now we're kind of getting all of the squad here in the city. Maxwell Lord attacks Wonder Woman verbally, saying that, you know, why weren't they able to save the children, which is what I was talking about earlier. One weird thing that I never thought of with Green Lantern's powers is Green Lantern actually summons a Green Lantern Superman to fight with Superman. Like, he creates a construct Superman, and so it's Superman fighting a green Superman, and that's just fucking awesome. So yeah, Aquaman arrives in the river and resuscitates Wonder Woman, allowing her to escape back to Maxwell's hideout. Superman dives in the river in search of Wonder Woman, but instead finds Aquaman and an army of sea creatures waiting for him. Superman defeats Aquaman and his army, but not before Arthur is able to slash Superman's chest with his trident. Wonder Woman ensnares Maxwell with her lasso and demands to know how she can free Superman. Wonder Woman discovers that the only way she can free Superman is by killing Max, which she refuses to do because she swore she would never again to take a human life, even though they never say that she's ever taken a human life before. Yeah, so Superman returns to the hideout to continue his attack on Wonder Woman, but this time he's confronted by Green Lantern. Stewart creates a green energy construct clone of the Man of Steel. Now it's Superman versus Green Superman, Every time Superman hits his green clone, it grows larger. It finally becomes large enough to grip Superman with one hand. Superman uses his super breath to collapse part of the building on top of Green Lantern, knocking him out and destroying the green clone. I totally forgot about that. Yeah. As they're fighting, he becomes a giant-sized Superman, and like just so he can like squeeze him in his fist, which was also awesome. Like seriously, this ending action scene is like cooler than anything that's been in a DC movie so far. The Martian Manhunter then attempts to stop Superman by shape-shifting into the image of Kal-El's mother, Laura El. Superman, however, sees through the deception and knocks the Manhunter out. Honestly, Manhunter doesn't do shit in this movie. Like, I don't even remember that reading that scene in the script. He's really the one character that doesn't contribute very much at all. So Superman seizes Wonder Woman, is about to kill her when Batman reemerges and breaks Maxwell's neck, killing him and freeing Superman. I had a huge problem with this, as anyone could imagine. Batman doesn't kill. I don't care what the circumstances is. It's never even something that occurs to him. So I never like the idea that Batman will kill anybody. This is saved by the one fact that Maxwell Lord doesn't actually die. Maxwell's mind jumps into Brother Eye, which then merges with Talia. The Maxwell Talia computer reveals that Maxwell uses his planet Krypton restaurant chain to infect people with the Omax virus. Maxwell Talia then orders the Omax war to commence. Batman attempts to free Talia from the computer, but she dies. Maxwell's mind leaves the computer in search of a new host. So yeah, this is only kind of saved by the fact that Maxwell Lord doesn't actually die. His mind lives on, albeit in a computer Brainiac style. Somehow the computer manages to have tentacles and merge with Talia, and that merging is what ends up killing her. As Batman is like pep talking her and, you know, professing his love and things like that to force Maxwell out of her mind. And the idea that he was using the restaurants and infecting people all over the world, who do we know that's been eating at these restaurants? So now we get Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter are joined by the Flash, along with Wally West, who is now wearing his own Flash costume. And this is kind of the forming of our Justice League. For the first time, they all stand together on the roof of the building as the Omax begin their attack on the heroes. So they're basically like an army of Omax coming across the water to fight them. And this is like our heroic moment. This is where we get them all on screen for the first time. But one thing I forgot to mention earlier, which was the scene where he takes over Superman's mind. I really love it because it's like he's talking to Batman and Wonder Woman, and as he's talking, it's just his nose starts to bleed, which if you know anything about Maxwell Lord from the comics, whenever he uses his powers, his nose bleeds. So it was kind of like I knew something was happening, and that's when they turn around and reveal that the whole time he was talking to them, he was dominating Superman's mind, which is really great. It's a really great intro to that action scene, and I love the way that was handled. Okay, so now coming into the end here, as the Omax begin their attack on the heroes, Maxwell Lord's mind possesses Barry Allen and transforms him into Omax Ultra. So yeah, Barry Allen's been eating at the restaurant. He's the only one, so he obviously is infected with the virus, which now is something I just thought of. Iris always went with him, so wouldn't she be infected too? But that kind of comes in later. Superman fights Ultra while the rest of the team battles the Omax army. Barry struggles to free his mind from Maxwell's Ultra's control. He realizes that the only way to defeat Maxwell and stop the Omax army is to sacrifice himself. Barry races off the battlefield and runs around the world getting faster and faster until he reaches light speed. He slams into the speed barrier described as a cosmic wall of light, killing himself and finally destroying Maxwell Lord and the Omax. So this scene is really powerful and described way better in the script than in just a small little description there. So yeah, they're able to kind of free Barry's mind enough to kind of take control of his body, and he vibrates himself so much that he's able to get out of the shell, and he starts racing around the world as fast as he can. And Wally's racing beside him, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's trying to stop him, but Barry runs as fast as he can. And he earlier in the movie described why he likes using his powers He talks about how there's just this one peaceful moment when you hit that point of, between like before the speed of light, basically. I think I have this here. Yeah, he says, I don't know. When I'm really cooking as fast as I can, it's like everything in the universe just stops, hangs there. It's like a stillness, no wind, no noise, right there in that little space between beats of the human heart. It's peace. So yeah, he hints at this moment, and then he reaches that during this scene as he's running around the world, and he uses that time. He runs to Iris as she, time is frozen, and he's talking to her, like telling her that he has to sacrifice himself and everything. And he sees a tear rolling down her eye, even though he can't move because everything is in slow motion except for him. She can't move. Sorry, did I say he? But he recognizes that she's hearing him. And again, it's a callback to that line of, are you always going to save the world? He says, no, just that little part with you in it. But now he's saying, do I have this? I thought I had screenshotted this. No. Damn, I really like the scene. I thought I had this. But basically, he's like, it's not just about saving the part with you in it, because the whole world belongs to you, basically. So, he's doing it for Iris, and it's a really great, powerful moment, and he sacrifices himself, and Maxwell Lord is killed, which causes all of the Omax to fall and die, and the shells disintegrate, and all the people are saved. And the Flash, there's like a flash in the air, and Flash's costume falls down, and that's all that's left of him. So now we know that the funeral was actually for Barry. And they're, I guess, burying an empty coffin since they don't have his body. And yeah, so now we cut to the present day, Fortress of Solitude. The heroes meet together and decide it's time to join forces and form a team. Just then, the team notices something descending upon the Earth from space. The script ends with the Justice League launching themselves through outer space to battle Starro the Conqueror. Which I don't know if Starro is anything from the comics or not, but yeah, that's the ending. And there's actually one thing they missed. Sorry, I got to get my water drink before I go in that. That scene also has Wally West there, and they give him the Flash's costume, and everybody is convincing him that it's his duty to take up Barry's place and be the new Flash. So Wally West is actually the new Flash at the end of the script. And it's also Batman saying that, I shouldn't be here. It was my fault. And, it's not my place. But Superman is actually the one that talks him into that. It's like he because he's like, I'm just a regular guy and all of you people have superpowers. Like, I shouldn't be here, which again is a very un-Batman moment. This one not saved because they don't really like Batman. That's not just how he would think. So, but yeah, Superman is saying it's his blah blah blah. It's his humanity that makes him the best of all of them. And that's what, convinces Batman. And that's when they see this giant starfish thing come from space, which is a little weird, but whatever. And then we get our little pose. So literally it's like they all look around the room at one another, cautious, smiles, without a word, they gear up. The Flash starts to vibrate, revving his engine. Green Lantern projects battle armor from his ring. Aquaman snaps his harpoon hand into place. So he does get a harpoon hand. It's better than a water hand. John Jones, Martian Manhunter, pops metal spikes out all over his body. Why didn't he do that any other time in the script? Batman pulls his bat mask on tight. Wonder Woman clamps her Amazon bracelets, and Superman clenches his fist, fills up his chest, and then Superman says, "Let's do it." Together, we fade out over the image of the Justice League launching themselves through outer space to battle Starro the Conqueror. Tiny against its intergalactic mass, but they're strong and determined, and we know with utter certainty they will keep us all safe. And that's the end of Justice League Mortal. I have a lot of thoughts about this one. I really like this script. I think this would have been a very good Justice League movie. And like looking at the cast list, I actually think the cast is all really great. My only problem, and this actually came out recently, Armie Hammer was talking about it. Armie Hammer is pretty young for Batman. I think it would be better now that he's older. But at the time, if it had come out, I wish they would have... Like, the script doesn't really specify a young or old Batman, but I definitely think he should be played a little older. And I really enjoy Armie Hammer. I've only seen him in a couple things. I haven't seen The Lone Ranger, even though I kind of want to, even though everybody says that it's not good. To me, I feel like I might still enjoy it. But I think this could have been great. I wish this would have been made. It would have been fascinating to see what kind of world we would live in, because technically it would have been before the Avengers. It would have been a fast-tracked Justice League movie, and in my opinion, the script is good. The action scenes in particular at the end are incredible. It might have had a little bit of a boring middle section, but overall, I think you could compare it to the first Iron Man movie. Like the first Iron Man movie has some boring sections in it as well, and it's kind of the last act of the movie where all the action is, and it's still a great fucking superhero movie, one of the best superhero movies. And I think this one, with a little bit of rewriting, could have been amazing. And it's crazy to think that this has been sitting around for so long and nobody ever decided to pick it back up. You think everybody was so involved with the writer's strike, but that ended and they never went back to it. I mean, they were definitely well into Batman movies with Christian Bale, but they easily could have had this movie out before The Dark Knight Rises. Like they could have picked it back up in 2009, had it out by 2010 or 2011. Dark Knight Rises didn't come out until 2013. So you even could have subtracted Armie Hammer for Christian Bale, and it still would have been amazing. You could even put in Brandon Routh's Superman. I know Superman Returns, people didn't like it, but I think he's a decent actor, and I think it shows more nowadays in his career with things like what's the name of that show, Legends of Tomorrow, and his role on Arrow. But I think this could have been a great movie. I would love to know what you think about it. And first, I just want to apologize for my coughing and sniffling and any of that stuff. I wasn't able to edit out completely. But I've been sick. I really wanted to get this episode in because I was super excited to talk about this script, and my throat's just getting dry, leading to some coughing. But I really want to hear what you guys think of the script. Email us at shelvedfilmpodcast@gmail.com, or hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at shelvedpodcast. Personally, I think this would have been great. It could have been a 4 out of 5 movie when it came out. It could have completely changed the way comic book movies are made today. But I want to hear from you. What did you think? Did you like it? I really enjoyed it. So I want to thank you all for listening. And I want to hear your opinions on the Justice League movie. If you want to send some thoughts or even a review, I'll read it on the show on the next mini episode. But just want to thank everybody for listening. I had a lot of fun covering this one. I might revisit it with a guest since I've already read it. I normally like to do guest episodes, but it just worked out that this one was going to be a solo episode, and I actually had a lot of fun even just sitting here by myself talking about it. So I think talking about it with a guest, maybe doing a retrospective, like I would totally be down for that. So if any of my guests are listening and would like to come back and read the script and talk about it with me, I would be totally willing to give it another look. But that's going to be it for today's episode. There's going to be a mini episode dropping the same night that I drop this. So you'll know that our next episode is going to be the first draft of the Mortal Kombat movie, based on the popular video game and my all-time favorite video game movie. So we're going to see what that movie looked like in its early stages, which is interesting to say the least. But thank you all for listening. Send those emails, check out the social media, and I will see you for our next episode where we talk about Mortal Kombat.